Okay, hello and welcome to our webcast series on managing your Dynamics future. I'm Jason Gumpert, and joining us for today's event is Dermot Bowden of TriBridge. Dermot is a Dynamics SL solution architect with many years of experience working with both Dynamics SL and GP, and we are really glad to have him joining us today. As we get started, I just want to add that we invite you to add your feedback and ask questions during the presentation. Please use the Q&A tab that you'll see to the right of the slides to ask your questions during or after the presentation, and Dermot will be making time at the end. So without further delay, please allow me to welcome our speaker, Dermot Bowden.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. I am actually very excited to be able to show everybody what's coming up in Dynamics SL. There are some great features, that everybody has been looking for many years. So good afternoon or morning, depending on where you are in the country, and welcome. This is going to be really exciting for everybody, particularly for those of you who don't or haven't seen what is coming down the pipe. Just so everyone's aware, Dynamics SL is probably going to be scheduled to release during the SL User Conference coming in September. So that's probably when the official launch is going to happen, and that's September 24th and 26th. So I just wanted everyone to be aware of that. So let me step back a little bit. I'll let everyone know who I am. My name is Dermot Bowden, as Jason said. I've been with TriBridge, which is a Dynamics SL partner, for about 8 or 9 years now, but I've been working with the product for going on 20 years. I've worked in other Dynamics products before, but SL is absolutely my favorite. And I'm sort of excited about the direction that the product is going in. So, and I hope everybody's going to see that there's been a lot of investment, a lot of new development. The developers have really kind of, listened to what everyone has really said about, what the direction that the product needs to go in and what features we're missing. And so they've done quite a good job with this release. So without, kind of hesitation here, let's go ahead and kind of get in and let's go through. It is a PowerPoint presentation. I'm actually not showing product. The product is out in beta, but it's still being worked. But what I did is I am going to show you a presentation of the new features and functionality. And so I'll talk a little bit about what our agenda is today. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the high-level features, some of the new stuff that's coming on board. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the new web applications for those of you who are not familiar with what the new web applications are. We've had web services already, but these are fully developed web applications. They're not necessarily tied to the release of 2015. They are being developed concurrently, and so they're available. In fact, some of them are available in the current version of SL. But there's going to be some new web applications that will be available once 2015 actually gets released. They'll be compatible with that version. So I'm going to talk about those a little bit, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the development roadmap for SL. So what's coming in the future for the product, starting with this new release, which is a major release, and what the future holds. So it's kind of how we'll approach this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about some of the new features and functionality. The first one that I'll talk about a little bit, I think is helpful as far as security a little bit. Whenever we set up users within the system and we want to limit them to the company that they need to be in, a lot of times right now today is when they go to select a company, they see all the companies that are available, even if they don't have access to that particular company. So what change has been made is just making the user experience a little bit better. Is the ability to go ahead and just limit what the companies that can be selected based on what their access is. Fairly simple, okay, but actually something that people have been asking about. Why is it that when people are selecting companies, they can see every company that's that's out there, even if they don't have access to it. So this is just a couple of screenshots. The one on the left is what you would certainly see today, even if you didn't have access to all those companies. But with 2015, you're just going to see the company that you actually have access to. Okay. The next one, and I think there's going to be probably a lot of cheers and yeses in the audience, even though I can't hear you, is the email capability back to ROI. And what I mean by ROI is just basically the report functionality within SL. Something that was with the latest version of 2011 was removed, and so they have built that back in. And so what that means is that you are now able to go ahead during the printing of a report in the print preview, go ahead and send out a report, pick the file type, whether it be PDF, which is the most common, and route it through email. We had it in earlier versions. It's now back. They had to rewrite some of the ROI in order for that to happen, but it is now back. So we will have the ability to go ahead and send out any of the reports, whether it be even the SSRS reports that are launching from SL will have that capability. So we'll now be able to email out our reports pretty easily. All right. Next thing is some report enhancements. So a lot of the development has been around kind of giving everybody a lot more flexibility around reporting and being able to create a lot of different customized reports particular to any one report format. So instead of limiting everybody to the 8 that's in the report control now, because you're limited to only having 8 versions of a particular report, now it's unlimited. If you'll notice that it is now within the report control maintenance, it's a grid, which means that you can have unlimited versions of a particular report. That's a big change, so that nobody is kind of locked into just the 8. Once again, it allows users to be able to expand out their reporting capability. Okay. Along with that is some enhancements to the reporting. Once again, this is, and I thought this was a really great idea, the ability to go ahead and set default reports up. So in other words, you always had the report control maintenance that you could list your reports, but now we have a screen where you can set your default report that would always come up for a particular report. So think about this. This would work really well in doing AP checks, right? Because you'll have a default AP check report that you always run instead of having to scroll down to what, if you're doing multiple laser checks. And then the ability to go ahead and select the default report by company. So once again, really extended out functionality about reporting, and so I can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? For the GL transaction report, for this particular company, the default report format is always going to be posted. Okay, so it just once again, it's just beefing up that. Now, this is another one that for all of you out there who've been working within SL for many years, who have maybe struggled with creating and doing the selects within the reports and trying to create your templates and trying to figure out how to select the right field, that's always been something that has been a little bit of a struggle for users. I'm going to be honest. It's because of the way that those selects work. They are listing out every type of field that's in a report, and so in fact in a lot of them they're written in views, so you're just seeing the views when you're trying to go ahead and do your select. It's not the most user-friendly tool. That has changed. So in 2015, now you are, when you go ahead in your report and you go ahead and do a select, and so say you want to go ahead and do a select on a particular field, you're now going to be able to see a description of those fields. You're going to be able to see where the source is. It's going to be so much easier for you to be able to go ahead and find your data. Okay. Much improved. So for those of you who have tried to, find the right fields when you're doing your report writing, this is going to make things so much easier for you. Okay. Another thing, once again, I'm sticking to the report theme. Report control will be locked down so that when you do an upgrade, you won't lose any custom reports that you've had or any customizations that you've made to the report control table. That will stay intact. It goes along with now the new way of being able to extend out the report control to an unlimited amount. And now anything that you have that is that's available, you won't have to worry about losing that during an upgrade when you've added new reports to your report control. One of the things that you will that they've now enabled is the ROI through web applications. So with web services, there's now an ROI interface so that there can be a lot of development around being able to run reports through web apps, and then being able to launch the same ROI, the same report interface that you have in SL. The same selections, the same report drop-downs you will have through the web applications. Once again, it's the move trying to get away from having some of those, everyone kind of relying on web-enabled reports through the business portal. Now there's another option, and that's the web apps. And I'll talk a little bit more about the direction of the web applications and business portal when I get to that section. Okay, so another big change, and this really is going to be of huge interest to anyone who is working with the project series within SL, is really true multi-company within projects. This is something that has been lacking within the project series. You were able to go ahead and actually select a particular company with a project, but it didn't really have any functionality around it. So that's changed. So now, not only is there multi-company enablement in processing screens, but there's also the ability to limit what a person can see based on the project and the company that the project is associated with. And I'll get into that in a little bit more detail. Okay. Once again, the enhancements around multi-company is in a lot of the processing screen. This is just an example of where the allocator. In the left-hand side is what the existing allocator is, right? In 2015, you have the ability to go ahead and now select for a specific company, or, and most importantly, run it for all companies. Okay, so that's a big change. So they went ahead and made sure that there was multi-company selection within a lot of the processing. Reporting is also something that was lacking in projects for multi-company. And so a lot of the reports have now been made company selection enabled, just like any of the other reports within SL where you have a company selection tab. You now have that in, I want to say, 85% of the project reports. You'll be able to go ahead and select the company you want to run that report. So once again, just as a screenshot and project profitability, you have the ability to go ahead and select the companies that you want to run that project profitability out of. Okay. So I think the big thing, right, and what I think will get a lot of people even more excited about as far as the multi-company within projects is security. So you have the ability now to restrict the ability to view projects if a project is associated with a company that you don't have access to. You will not be able to see that project. So in SL, in a multi-company environment within a single application database, anybody who's been working in the project series knows that the project control and project master is available to every single company, right? It's a shared list. Similar to vendors and customers, projects are shared across multiple companies within a single application database. And that's always been a little bit of an issue because there are certainly companies that you don't want everybody to have access to when they're looking at projects. So right now, today, we always had the ability to select or have a company that was associated not only with a project, but with an employee. So these screenshots are what we have today. But once again, it was just a flag, and it didn't really have too much functionality around it. Now, with the new enhancement, you can go ahead and have a selection based on the company. So currently, if I was this is just a screenshot of the project charge entry. If you were to do a lookup of your projects, well, yeah, you would see every single project that's available across all the companies. The difference in 2015, when you look up your active projects, is a company designator. And of course, you would just have access to those companies or see those projects and those companies that you have access to. So quite a big change there. Okay. Once again, you'll notice that there's a lot of new functionality around projects. SL is a job costing system. And so there's been a lot of development around making sure that that's beefed up. For those particular customers that are multi-company and multi-currency enabled, so that the project series can work well within those environments. So, I mean, I'm just kind of skimming across the top, about what's been done within projects to make that happen. But once again, with the multi-company and now multi-currency enhancement, it extends out that project capability. So now we have the ability to go ahead and do multi-currency within projects. So you can have a project that has a base currency that is different than what the company's currency is. So that's important. I mean, that means that we can truly go ahead and do flexible billing in a different currency, in Canadian or British pounds or euros. Out of a U.S. dollar-based company because the project is set that way. So that's something we could not do today. And so that's, once again, you notice I just did some screenshots of, this is a company in the, in the demo database that's set up as a U.S. dollar base, but I can have the project actually be a Canadian dollar project. So pretty cool stuff. Okay, once again, I'm kind of sticking a little bit with projects, and there were some things in projects that they let's call them additional enhancements to make sure that we got the most accurate accounting with anything that we've done with projects. Currently today, the sales tax, if we want to record sales tax and have that sales tax being recorded back to the project, it's done at the document level, and we didn't have detailed sales tax for projects. So instead of now having that be at the document level, the sales tax for projects is now at the detail line level. That's a bit of a change for those people that, it's important to be able to capture the true sales tax within an AP voucher. This is going to be pretty important. The other thing that is also going to be available with the new version, and I think it's still being fine-tuned, so I don't have a screenshot of it, but there is going to be a basic resource planning tool. So it will be a web-based tool. This is something that has been missing from the project series within SL. Having a true resource planning tool to be able to go ahead and schedule out and see where your resources, employees, or subcontractors are, being able to go ahead and assign those employees to projects, being able to see where you may be overloaded with those resources. Once again, it's a pretty initial basic planning tool. It will be a web-based tool, and it is going to be released with 2015. A lot of people are really excited about that. Something where we've had some really great functionality in the project series around being able to do time and be able to set up employees and even do some assignment resourcing, but never really had a resource planning tool. And so that's, I'm as excited as everybody else to actually see that functioning. Okay. Couple things. So let's move out the project series a little bit. Let's get into some of the financial changes. Once again, the financial modules within SL have been pretty rock solid, right? GL, AP, AR, they're solid bunch of modules, but there is definitely room for improvement there. And so one of the things that they knew was important was the ability to go ahead and do some additional audit tracking. SL, all the tables always have the ability to record the created user and the last updated user, and that's good, but it doesn't really give you the ability to see what maybe a vendor name was when the check was created. So additional functionality around being able to store that information for audit tracking, where it's really tracking some of those changes within the vendor maintenance. Okay, another thing that AP has been missing, and that it's been a requirement for a lot of companies, is backup withholdings for 1099s. We've never had the ability easily, everyone's had workarounds for it, to really kind of make sure that we do backup withholdings. And for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it is essentially the same as doing holding taxes if you're paying someone through payroll. But these are certain 1099 vendors. A lot of times it's an independent contractor or somebody who is working for you that you need to be able to hold back, and I think it's 28% is the percentage now, to hold back from their pay. And of course you have to go ahead and run your all your tax reports like you normally would, similar to how you do on payroll. Right now, we really didn't have anything within AP to be able to go ahead and withhold some of those amounts, but 2015 is now going to give you the ability to do that. So once again, you can go ahead and say, I want to calculate by the 1099 vendor. So in AP setup, we turn it on. The screenshot has backup withholding percent of 5%. The 5% is way too low, but just as but then we certainly would go ahead and turn it on, and then you would go ahead and pick an account that you want to go ahead and have that posted to. When you're in vendor maintenance, you now have the ability on the 1099 tab to be able to say that you want to go ahead for this 1099 vendor. Remember, this will be a 1099 vendor. We can go ahead and calculate the backup withholdings. And then once again, during data entry for this 1099 vendor, you will get a message that the 1099 vendor is subject to backup withholdings, so that it will make that entry for you. And then once again, when it's released, it's going to let you know that backup withholdings are going to be created for that vendor. So it's letting the users know exactly what's going on each time. Okay. And then a little bit of differences in as far as how it holds that data. There is a new type, right? There's a backup withholdings type. So if you were to go ahead and look at a particular vendor and see what's being withheld, then you would see that backup withholdings document type. And once again, in this example, it's $28, which would be the 28% of the 100. Okay, and then also in vendor history, there is a new column, and that's showing what the backup withholdings were for that vendor. So anyway, really beefed up functionality around 1099s. Okay, accounts receivable. You now have the ability to do a print preview. So once again, this is something that a lot of people, if they do invoicing out of accounts receivable, have been looking for. Now you can go ahead and enter an invoice, have the invoice on hold, and hit your invoice preview button to see what your invoice would look like even before you release it. Today, in accounts receivable, in order to see your invoice, you have to release it. Which sometimes defeats the purpose, because maybe you want to be able to see those invoices and review them before you actually release them into the system, so that you can make the necessary adjustments. So this is definitely for those people who are doing invoicing in AR is going to be a game changer. Not only can you do it within Invoice and Memo, but there's going to be a quick query viewer, so which is the ability to just go ahead in the current quick queries, be able to look at invoices that haven't been released yet. They could be on hold, or they could be balanced, all right? So they could be set to release later, and be able to invoice preview them from there. So really great functionality around that. Okay. Accounts payable, be able to do multiple prepayments against a voucher. So right now, today, you can only do one prepayment, but now you could do multiple prepayments. For those people who are using the prepayments within AP, then this is a nice feature. Okay, so once again, I just have a new button in the prepayment application, so to be able to do multiple prepayments. And I am moving through all of this fairly quickly because there's a lot of new functionality. So I apologize for the speed for which I'm going through, but I'm hoping everyone's getting a good feel for what's, all the changes that have been made for this particular version. But I want to make sure I cover everything in the time we have too. I'm going to go over Payroll for some of the enhancements within Payroll. I won't get into a lot of detail on it, but there are some things that people were looking for within Payroll, making the process a little bit easier and quicker. And so that was the #1 goal around Payroll, is to make that payroll processing not as difficult, particularly when changes needed to be made. And so there was a lot of work around making sure that was more streamlined. All right. One of the things that was done in Payroll is now the ability to do a true recalculation in review and edit check screen. So before, you could go ahead into the review and edit check screen, and if you needed to, after you've done your payroll calculation, you could make an adjustment to any of the deductions. But if you had other calculations that were, based on that deduction, or you had other things that were really relying on that, you'd have to make sure that you changed everything appropriately. Now, within the review and edit check screen, you can do a true recalculation. So you can make an adjustment to a deduction amount in that screen, and then within that screen, do a true recalculation, so it recalculates all the proper deductions for that particular employee. It just makes the adjustment process within payroll a lot easier. Okay. So that's a procedural change. Once again, I'll go through this fairly quickly, but currently, you would just go through and you would increase or decrease the actual deductions, and then you'd have to make all those. With 2015, you can go ahead and recalculate, and it'll make all the appropriate changes for you. Another thing that makes things for those people who are using time entry in projects, and you have the payroll labor interface, it was always difficult when you had to actually go ahead and void a check and reissue a check, because you would have to actually go ahead and re-enter, make the corrections within time entry and process it all the way through. So once again, that process has been simplified so that you don't have to re-enter time, so that you can, when you do void a check, it'll go ahead and make sure that all that is available. So currently, you'd have to re-enter the timesheet information and do all, after you did the void. Now you can just void it, redo calculations, and get your check out. Okay. Another thing is for those people who were using the net check functionality to be able to just put a net amount in and gross it up. It wasn't always creating or taking into account all of the different deductions properly, and so that's another big change, right? So now it will go ahead and make sure that it grosses up those particular checks properly within that screen. So once again, if you're doing that particular process where you want to make sure that you were doing net check processing, this is definitely now taking into account all the different deductions where before it did not. Okay. Now, one of the other things that was also beefed up within payroll, for those of you who are doing payroll, is changes to very, very important tables within payroll for audit tracking. So deductions and the tax tables and employee pay information, it's now audit tracked, so that any changes that are being made to those particular tables, because payroll is so sensitive, and because particularly employee pay information is so sensitive, we want to make sure that we know who made whatever changes within those particular tables. And so now it's truly audit tracked. It's not just the person who created it and the last person who had updated. It's all the changes that are being made and what changes were made. Okay. A couple of other things that were added. There is now on the F3, right, lookup, the PV lookup. There's now the ability to go ahead and do a additional search feature within that. So you, just like you have for those of you who have been using the quick queries, you know that you have the filtering, which is pretty nice in those quick queries. You can start typing anything in, and it'll come up and give you the data that you need within those quick queries. The F3 lookup now has that same type of filter in it. So that's pretty neat. So whatever you have within your lookup, right? So in this case, in this example, it's journal transactions. So if you were looking up a batch, and you needed to find what you need, you could go ahead and whatever you have in your PV F3 lookup, you can do a filter or search on. So every single one of the F3 lookups now has this new ability to go ahead and do a search on any of the data within the F3 lookup. Right? So that's pretty cool. There is, for those of you who are used to working when creating new quick queries, and I love the new quick queries. Now it's a little bit easier just to go ahead and create the new ones because it's going to go ahead and just filter out the SQL views for those particular quick queries. Okay. Here's a new enhancement on the quick queries, which I think is really awesome. Right now in the quick queries, we have the ability to modify them and, of course, send them out to Excel. But sending them out to Excel is great because Excel is a great tool to be able to go ahead and further modify the data, right? Resort it any way we need, be able to do charting and things like that, right? So we all love Excel. But Excel is static data. It does so. If somebody gave us an Excel sheet of AP documents that were created during the month, that Excel data is only as good as the minute that it was created, right? Because data is changing constantly in SL. So the new enhancement to Quick Query now is that when we go ahead and create a Excel sheet, we have the ability to create what's called a query table. What that means is that when we create a query table, send things out to Excel, that Excel sheet is going to be enabled to be refreshed. So let that sink into everybody. What that means is that that Excel sheet, if I was going ahead in a quick query and did AP vouchers and adjustments and send it out as a query table and then email that to somebody, and they had obviously, everyone has to have all the rights, they could go ahead and refresh that data within Excel, and it would refresh the data from SL within the Excel sheet. That's a big change, okay? So once again, there's a connection type. I won't get into a lot of details on this, but there's some things that you can do around making sure that you have that connection set. And then you have a query table. So once again, when you're sending this quick query out using the query table, you can create a new particular Excel sheet, or you can send it out to a already existing one, right? Depends on how you want to do it. Once it kind of gets out there, it already has this connection property behind it. But most importantly, it's got a refresh button. So this particular query table now is connected to the database so that you can refresh the data at any time in Excel. All right, very cool. And then the ability, same thing, to be able to do it for those people in Excel who really like pivot tables, and I do too, I can create that pivot table. So right from the quick queries, I now have the ability to go ahead and create a pivot table, right? Also connected, right? Also the ability to refresh the data. So, yeah, so that really beefs up the functionality around quick queries and to be able to go ahead and make sure you have all that data, right? Also, quick queries, I mentioned earlier before, are also going to be available through the web applications. So there's now a lot of ability to be able to look at those quick queries through a web app. A couple things real quick, just for those of you who are on the IT side, who are used to kind of working and doing database updates. Now you can synchronize your ownership with just a very specific application database. Instead of when you ran that process, it would update and synchronize ownership across all your databases and all your system data. now it can be much more specific. Okay. A couple of quick changes. One is that the basic script language, anything that is written in BSL, needs to be converted. It's not saying that you can't do it. We can just have, there's just the basic script language to VBA conversion that needs to be run, so that in this new version everything should be on VBA. All right, so there's this is just a couple things for those that are on the technical side, just knowing what's kind of happening with this particular version. So there's going to be some removal of the VB6 code. It's going to support .NET 4.5 and Visual Studio 2012 and 13. Well, it's compatible with 2013. And then the installation of it, the actual install of the product, is going to be a lot easier. Okay. So that's really, that's really all of the highlights of what's coming down in 2015. We're all pretty excited about it. There's some really cool stuff. But in conjunction with everything that's been happening with the new release of 2015, there's been the web applications that are being developed. And once again, right now, the web applications, for those of you who aren't familiar with them, they're available now with SL 2011. You can use them as long as, I think you have to be on Service Pack 2, but you have them for project time entry, you have them for expense entry, and we do have project time and expense approvals. Just for those who aren't familiar, I'm going to go ahead and show some screenshots of what they look like. But these are the replacement. Remember, they're project time entry, replacing what we have in the business portal. And they really truly are web applications, but they're designed to be used not only on a mobile device, right, not only on an Android phone or an iPhone or an iPad, but also on your laptop too. So they used to be called words for mobile devices, but really it's a web-enabled application. It's the direction SL is going in, web-enabling their product. So this is really kind of the first step. Right now, in the current version, you can do project time entry. So we have all of this, plus in 2015, we're going to have even more, right? So 2015 is going to expand out the web applications, including the ability to do project maintenance, right? Including the ability to do budgets within a web applications, and project timesheet entry, which is different than employee timesheet entry. Invoice approvals and resource management dashboards and things like that will be available in conjunction with 2015. So all these web applications are being developed, but they're being developed to make sure that they keep adding them as the project is coming along. So if we looked at a project employee time card, I have just a few screenshots of what that looks like. Once again, think of this as this could be something that could be on your phone. And then if you would see that you would have, maybe you could do a new time card, so you'd press the new button. And once again, I just have a couple of screenshots. It's showing you exactly what it looks like. It can be based on what you have as far as assignments, or you can just go ahead and select your project and task, just like you do today, right? And this works, by the way, this works for the regular time card entry that you do within the business portal, or if you're using flex time. So if you're using flex time, then you can certainly use the web applications for that. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware. It's the replacement for both the flex time within SL and also the normal time card entry. Okay. And then again, you have the ability to make your notes, descriptions on each line, Once again, this is the project task, and you can put your hours against that and save that. Okay, pretty easy to use, designed to be very user-friendly, pretty straightforward, and make it. Think about it. You now have the ability to really do a time card as long as you have some sort of internet connection with a mobile device. Okay. Expense entry, the same thing. You know, you can go ahead and do your expense reports. Remember, project employee expense reports. You can go ahead, and this is just the main, you know, header of your expense entry. And then you can certainly go ahead and select the expense type and project and task for that. And then you would have the ability, and I think this is really neat, and everyone else kind of ooh and ah on this one, I can do attachments. So not only can I, in my mobile device, can I do browse out to a particular attachment when I'm doing my expenses, but if I have a device that I can, almost all smartphones have a camera, and I can take a picture of my expenses, those will also upload automatically. So think about it. If I'm going ahead and I need to do my expenses, I have it on my iPhone or my Android or whatever phone I have, I can now just take pictures of those receipts. And then go ahead and have those enabled to be ready for my expenses. And I can even do it while I'm entering my expenses. So very cool stuff. All right. Project management, for those of you who have project managers who need to do line item approvals, those are all going to be web enabled also. And so once again, the project manager will be able to see what they have as far as their line item approvals. Remember, this is for project manager's line item approval process. Once again, replacing what we have within the business portal, okay? And being able to approve or reject each of those particular lines, okay? We also have a project analysis screen. So once again, that's going to be available. It is replacing what we have within the business portal for project analysis. And so it's going to have all the screens that you're used to, project lists and the project net profit screen and the drill down and all those great screens that we have within business portal are going to be available. And this is going to be available with 2015. So that this isn't available today, but it will be with 2015. Okay? And then again, we have T&E approvals for managers and supervisors, so time and expense approvals. And once again, the ability to go ahead and accept or reject, and also forward. So delegation, you know, being able to go ahead and say, all right, well, I can't really approve or reject this particular time, but I'm going to forward it to somebody else to take a look at. And then there's going to be some other features within the product where you can set a delegation when you go on vacation, okay, so that you can say, all right, well, I'm going to be gone for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that all the time and expenses that need to be approved are forwarded to this one particular person, okay. And then all users will have some settings that they can do. They'll have the ability to go ahead and set some themes, how many lines they want to display, and things like that. So there's going to be some functionalities around there. So for those people that are curious about how it's written, HTML5, and it's going to be accessible through not only your web browsers, but also any of the smartphones. All right. So Windows Phone, Surface, Android, iPhones, you know, Windows or Mac, and so there is huge amounts of flexibility here. Okay. Once again, because you know, people will know that they're going to need to maybe modify the time and expense Source code is included with all the web apps. So for those people who really need to change the look and feel of the time entry or the expense entry or even the approval process, that's something that was very, very difficult to do within Business Portal, is actually change the way the time card entry screen works. That's with the web applications, it's more open architecture, so there's going to be the ability to make any kind of changes that need to be made there. So once again, a lot of flexibility around all of the, not only the created web applications, but of course you have web services that you can extend out even more functionality around it. Okay, so the development goal is basically to think of all the stuff that is in Business Portal and replicate it in the web apps, right? Replace it. So there's almost everything that's really being used in Business Portal will be ready and available once 2015 comes out. And so here's something that's very, very important for those of you who are using Business Portal and want to upgrade to 2015. Business Portal will not be supported in SL 2015. The whole idea is those web applications are replacing that Business Portal functionality. So that's key. Everyone keep that in mind, particularly around depending on what you're doing within the Business Portal. Once again, you certainly can continue to use SharePoint and all that good stuff, but the Business Portal functionality around time, card entry, and expense entry and approval process won't be supported in 2015. Those will have to be replaced with the web apps. Okay, and then I'm going to make sure I wrap up really quick here, but the major releases, okay, this is kind of the release cycle. You'll have a major release, which is every 2 to 3 years. With that major release, there's certainly hot fixes and service packs that kind of go around, and there's feature packs too, which is adding more functionality. But web applications are going to continually be developed along that. So they're not really tied to major releases. The web apps aren't tied to hot fixes or service packs. The web applications that they're developing will be constantly be released within the course of the product. So that's a good thing. So it gives everybody some flexibility. All right. So the roadmap basically is, more web apps, more web functionality, and really beefing up the SL so that it's more of a web-enabled product. That's really the direction the product is going in. So with SL 2015, there's more web applications, there's some basic resource management, and so 2016, probably 2017, there'll be the next version, and it'll be more web-enabled. All right. So I do have a little bit of time, not a lot unfortunately, but I have some time for Q&A. I see that there are some questions, so I'll go ahead and read through those. And just so everyone's aware, once again, my name is Dermot Bode. I'm with TriBridge. I'm an SL architect there. And certainly, if you have any further questions, I need to contact me. Absolutely, do not hesitate. Go ahead and send me an email, and I'll certainly be happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay. Someone asked if we have a slide deck. This is being recorded, so this recording will be available. So we'll absolutely make sure that we have that. So is there any way to manage projects not only a financial aspect, but also marry up financials with project deliverables? Yeah, there is. There's certainly some integrated solutions. I think Fernando, thank you for responding to a lot of these. So that helped a lot. And I think we're in good shape. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, Dermot, thank you. I want to make sure you're. Are you seeing the full list of questions that have come in on the queue there?
I do. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Okay. Well, if you feel like you've answered all the questions, then we will maybe start to wrap up here.
Yeah, so, there was one other question that people were asking: when will this be in general release? When will this be available? We're assuming that the announcement will be at the end of September. So there's the SL User Conference that's in Boston, September 24th and 26th. That is going to be the official launch. And so it'll be either that week or very, very soon thereafter. So everyone kind of keep an eye out for that. All right, thank you so much, everybody.
Dermot?
Yes.
Actually, this might be pretty new, but the actual launch will be October 14 during the partner conference. So
great.
That's when the official launch is going to be. There's actually more questions down the queue. I didn't answer them all. I left some to you, so if we still have some minutes, you might want to go into those. Wanted to leave you something.
Okay, great. Thank you, Fernando. I appreciate it. Thank you for answering some of those questions too within the Q&A. That helped a lot. So yeah, there's a few of them. So it says with all of the project screens restrict based off of companies, or just project-related screens. It's just project-related screens, but except for actually the employee maintenance. Will have the ability to just see those employees that are tied to projects. So the project employee maintenance screen will have that ability to just be able to see those employees within whatever companies you have access to. So it is definitely restricted not only on the projects but also on the actual employees too. So that was a really good question. Another question was, does the delegation of supervisor approval in T&E exist today? It does not. So that's a new feature and functionality that it's going to be available in 2015. So that's a great question. But yeah, there will be an upgrade from 7.0 to 2015. So in fact, if you're even on 6.0, you'll be able to go ahead and you won't have to jump versions or anything. There's a direct upgrade to that. So that's a great question, but absolutely. All right, great, everyone.
All right, well, thanks again, Dermot, for taking the time today and for all the great questions. Thanks to everyone in the audience. Today's session has been recorded. We'll be sending out an email alerting you when that recording is available. So thanks and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.